Insbesondere die Markenwahrnehmung heute ist besonders schwierig in vielen Fällen und insbesondere in der jetzigen Zeit fragen sich viele, machen wir da eigentlich alles richtig? Lesley Everett, geboren in Großbritannien, mittlerweile in Kalifornien lebend, eine internationale Expertin und berät große Marken im Hinblick darauf, wie sie sich nachhaltig am Markt und eben auch erfolgreich am Markt aufstellen. Wir haben uns mit ihr für ein Interview getroffen. Das Interview wurde in englischer Sprache durchgeführt. Personal branding. Times of crisis, marketing, and sales. Many people are a bit confused. What should we do at the moment? And especially many of our listeners are self-employed or work in free enterprise, and they don't really know which direction to go now. And often they hear different terms which they use, and often they are confused how to use them properly and what they even mean. It's time to bring a bit of light into the scene of all these different kinds of jargon. And we have an international expert here. Hello and welcome, Lesley Everett.
Thank you, Niels. Hello and welcome as well. It's good to be here.
Thank you very much for taking the time. So with your international experience from being born in the UK and now living in California, you are really very close to the big corporations who are very succeeding in a very competitive market. And when I see your business on personal branding, could you give us an overview? Many people hear personal branding and it became a bit of a buzzword because suddenly at every corner, an expert popped up, suddenly being an expert on personal branding. How can people spot who has a clue about personal branding, and what does personal branding mean specifically for businesses?
Yes, that's so true. A lot of people jumped on that bandwagon, and recently a lot of people have been speaking about it in terms of your digital brand, your online brand, and it's of course it's far more than that. And I've been saying for many years that your brand is quite simply what people say about you behind your back, and that's whether that's an individual or whether it's about a company. And often I'll say to my clients, the most powerful part of your brand today is what your clients and customers say about your brand to their contacts. And that goes global instantly, of course. And what they say is about how they feel about your organization through an interaction with a person. And therefore, that person's brand and how they interact, how authentic they are, how impactful they are, how they make you feel is today what the brand of the organization is. So my belief is, and it has been for many years, but more so right now, is that we have to get this real, true, authentic personality injection into the corporate brand more than ever. We have to really consider how our people make our customers feel. And that's when they interact or whether it's across a digital platform in some way. So it's really the perceptions and what people say about you to their contacts. That's what a brand is, a personal brand, a corporate brand, whatever.
When I prepared for this interview, we of course asked different people who we know and who listen to our podcast frequently what they think about personal branding. And they heard about bringing personality into their brand. But on the other hand, they say, well, when we have people talking to customers or being in writing in contact with the customers, we use scripts for legal reasons, for safety and security reasons, just to be on the safe side in any way. So we basically train people to be exactly the same, no matter who is on the phone with the customer. So from your point of view, is that a wrong approach?
I really do believe it is. This mechanical approach is really not going to do any businesses any favors right now. There's a massive opportunity in the corporate world and even for small businesses to absolutely make sure that they are dealing with their clients in as personal a way as possible. We see through these mechanical approaches. We see through the bots and things. We want to have that personal approach that we feel valued by the business. We want to know that we're dealing with brands that have strong values and are interested in us as consumers. So I really believe that companies are going to struggle to be competitive if they use this mechanical, scripted approach. We need to be training our people to be more individual. You know, it goes back years ago, I used to say that this whole McDonald's thing in the UK, when I was there at the time, the end of every transaction, they would be trained to say, have a good day. And that was just so non-British. It just didn't work outside America. And it was so insincere that it actually created the opposite effect. Why not train your people to just say something appropriate at the end of a transaction, something that's meaningful to them, that they're comfortable with? It goes a million miles further. So, in answer to your question, I think it's a dangerous approach to have right now, particularly as we're moving out of this situation where people are craving trust and credibility and dealing with people and companies that they feel that they're valuable to as a consumer.
Excellent. Yes, even I, when I lived in London, remember that when that happened, and even I, as an immigrant to the UK, thought that doesn't sound very British, and immediately Brits confirmed to me it isn't very British. We actually would never say that. And I don't know if they tried it in Germany. I think Germans would be genuinely surprised, because in Germany we would be genuinely surprised about any kind of politeness. So
you have your own inimitable personalities in Germany, which I love.
Absolutely. And I come from northern Germany. Believe me, we don't talk much, and especially not in a polite way.
But it's direct, it's clear, we know what we get.
It is very clear. That is unambiguously true. Now, of course, some people will claim, when we make it more personal, then of course you will meet some resistance from senior management who will say, well, it might be more personal, but that immediately means we have to invest more. And that immediately means we have higher costs, same turnover, so less profit. How do we overcome that resistance? Because some people actually told me they tried to implement personal branding, but it was turned down because they said the more individual we are, the higher the costs are. And that's why we turn it down. We want to strive for efficiency. What is your take on that?
Mm-hmm. I think I've stopped using the term personal branding a lot of the time, because it does give people this slightly negative view. And what I think about is really what the results are for organizations, and that what does that give you if your leaders go through a program like this? Well, what we focus on is making sure they're absolutely clear about what their expertise is, and they're visible with that. They can turn that into, how can I help my client because I have this expert insight into this part of the business. And I also say that if you have leaders that really project themselves well, it's excellent PR for the business, because rather than just being known as the sales director of IBM, you're known as the expert in achieving XYZ results for your clients. You have an expertise in an area. That gives you external PR that you wouldn't necessarily get. So being invited to speak at conferences, being on panels and things, that's great PR for the company as well. And also, I would also ask clients, and I often frequently do, what they spend on their brand, what's their brand investment every year, and it's millions of dollars. And if you haven't got your people in alignment with that, you are diluting that significantly. We can't easily put a figure on that. But people don't believe what you're telling them on your website, in your marketing collateral, unless they really experience it through a person. So ultimately, you're wasting a whole load of investment, and maybe you should be putting more investment into how people represent the brand than into the marketing bucket of raising that awareness, or at least it should be equal.
Fully agree with that. Excellent insight. And now, of course, people often wonder, when we have this, let's put it in personal branding, where do we have to put it in our corporate environment? Because people like when a certain department is responsible and accountable for it. Some people say it's marketing, some people say it's sales, some people say it's about all of the leadership team and senior management. Some people say you can't really stick it to any kind of department, it's all in between. What would you say is the right answer to this?
I think we have to start by looking at leadership, and that could be C-suite to senior levels of leadership, and even management going into leadership roles. But ultimately, when I'm talking to an organization about a rollout program in this respect and what the results are, we should be thinking about all the stakeholders in our business. And that means people who deal with suppliers as well, for example. How many times, Niels, have you come across a great client, you have a great interaction with that business through the head of HR or head of learning and development or whatever, and they project a great brand of the business. And then it comes to procurement maybe, or getting your invoice paid, and you're dealing with people in the accounts department who don't respond, who are rude, who are direct, don't understand why you need to be paid on time. And that then dilutes the whole brand of the organization and undoes all the great work that people on the front line are doing. So I believe that this should go across all stakeholders in the business, looking at people who deal with all of your stakeholders in the business. I mean, I've dealt with engineering teams, all male engineering teams in the past, 50 of them in one room who are back office. But it's still important, and they still engage with this topic. They love the topic. This is about defining your expertise and people knowing who you are, what you're about, what you're great at. So, it should be seen as a company-wide thing. There's nobody that's more important than anybody else.
Excellent. When we now look at the usual approach when it comes to training your people, what I see in reality, because you say we talk to senior C-suite leaders, when I look into the programs of the last years, it normally starts with, so let's say major retailer, or we have a travel agency, or we even have banks. So people say we have to train the operational level, people who face them face to face, we're going to train them and their team leaders. And normally there it stops. And often people say, I hardly see anyone of the first three levels of leadership in any of our seminars when it comes to branding. So that would then, of course, be a major damage to personal branding aspects. Is that correct?
Yeah, it could well be. And I address this with all my clients and prospective clients that I speak to. It's no good training these people in middle management positions going into leadership positions. It's a highly important area to focus on. But if they're not getting the management and leadership from above in a way that empowers them to be using these skills and allowing them to be individual and authentic to the degree we need them to, and reinforce the corporate brand messages, you're never going to get maximum benefit from the program. So, and I've seen the best results when we have worked across an organization. I've seen massive results in terms of like 5% increase in employee engagement and 16% increase in one of the metrics that they used when they're dealing with clients. This
Wow.
particular result was a hotel, a large hotel. In fact, it was the JW Marriott Grosvenor House Hotel. I did a whole case study on it. But that was because we worked with the whole hotel, all 600 staff. So you get the real results when you go across the board and you don't leave anybody out.
So talking about programs, when we talk about your program of, let's say, corporate brand personality or leadership brand coaching, you have your own brand called Walking Tall. Could you give us a bit more detail on that to wrap the whole interview up when people are now interested to dive deeper into this topic? What are your programs about?
Yeah, sure. We've done as a lot of companies have over the last few weeks and months, really looked at what it is we're really good at. What is it that we really achieve for clients? And what we've done is expanded our leadership brand development program out to be a fully blended approach, maybe across 2 to 3 months, with mastermind groups, with one-to-one coaching, with mentoring, with short bite-sized group sessions, with on-the-job learning. Huge accountability running right through the program. So it addresses all the things we're hearing our clients say they need right now in high levels of engagement and practical use of content. And the outputs being, leaders who are more visible, who take control of their careers, are more humble as well in dealing with their teams, are more confident, that are great presenters of a message. So we really focus on the results, and that's needed more than ever right now. And these results absolutely feed into what businesses are needing to be competitive. So that's what we're looking at right now and delivering right now, is this whole virtual blended learning approach and on-the-job accountability as well.
Excellent. Of course, we're going to put all your contact data into the show notes of this podcast. So when you want to get in touch with Lesley, don't hesitate to do so. Do it right now, because we all know at the moment time is critical, especially in these times. And to wrap this whole interview up, there's only one thing for me left to say. Lesley, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Niels. Take care.